so many coincidences, both guards falling asleep, the fact that there was no actual video into his cell, so no one really could see what happened. There's a lot that's strange, and then there is this question of what he knew. Can you talk, let's go all the way back. This guy is a math teacher with no college degree, as you said, at the Dalton School, I believe. It's this very prestigious school. He then goes from there to suddenly being the investor of choice, the investment broker of choice for a lot of really prominent people, including the guy who ran Victoria's Secret. Can you tell that story?
Well, Epstein at one point was sleeping on a couch. I mean, he had no money. He was trying to make it in the world of Wall Street. He actually made a bunch of mistakes, got in trouble with the SEC, somehow evaded that, and then ended up opening his own company where he allegedly said he was only going to take people that had, I can't remember how many millions, but you had to have tons of millions of money or he couldn't even be his client. Look, he was a very, very smart man. He really did have a lot of intelligence, and he also knew how to manipulate people. And we don't know exactly how he met Les Wexner. I mean, he was an owner of Victoria's Secret, so who knows? But he somehow met this very wealthy man who ended up giving Jeffrey his house in New York, which is, and I think still remains, the largest residence in the whole city of New York. Why would you give a guy a piece of property like that? You know, and ultimately Les Wexner claimed that Epstein kind of embezzled the money from him, but he never reported it to the police. You know, there's always been these names of some very big time millionaires who did business with him. And Les Wexner was one of those people.
And was he blackmail? Is there evidence that he was blackmailing people and saying, you have to invest with me because I've got videos of you, essentially committing vile crimes with minors who were provided by Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, think about this. I mean, if you're Jeffrey Epstein, and let's just say you do have material like that, do you really have to go to someone and say, if you don't invest with me, I'm going to blackmail you? They know he has that kind of information. It's not like, I'm not saying that that's what he was doing, but he had a lot of information about a lot of powerful people. I mean, we know that. And whether or not they were involved with having sex as part of this underage sex trafficking operation that he was involved with, we really don't know. But what we do know, and as they say, follow the money, is that Jeffrey Epstein got a lot of money from some of these people, and it's really not clear what he was being paid for.
And then he goes on to move to Florida at some point. We know some of his alleged clients for the sex trafficking of girls, of teenage girls, and sometimes preteen girls, allegedly included Prince Andrew, lots of people flying on his plane, Alan Dershowitz saying that he, utilized some of Jeffrey Epstein's masseuse services, but that he was only getting massages, so he said. Harvard University taking big donations. I mean, he was running around with the very rich and famous, right? He was flying the Clintons on his plane, lots of politicians on his plane, Donald Trump partying with him. Can you talk specifically about the Donald Trump relationship as you understand it?
Well, the only thing we really know is that way back when, probably about 20 years ago, they were friends, and the reports are they had two falling outs. One was because of a property in Palm Beach that they were both bidding on, and Trump ultimately won the bidding war, turned around and resold the property to some, I think a Russian oligarch, and made an awful lot of money on that property. And then because they were in competition for that property, they had a falling out over that. And then the second thing that happened was Epstein was at an event at Mar-a-Lago, and he allegedly hit on one of the club members' young daughters, and they had a falling out over that. So they weren't the best of friends by any means at toward the end of when Epstein was sort of being looked at by authorities. But that said, Epstein modeled his business, his modeling business, after Trump's modeling business. So he knew enough about what Trump was doing with his modeling business to start his own modeling business. And what Epstein's modeling business was to have recruiters around the country and around the world. Mainly, they would go to Russia and other countries and get these very, very young girls, make promises to them that they were going to become famous models, bring them to our country on work visas. He had lawyers who helped them get these visas, and then he would set them up in an apartment complex, apartment building that he owned and his brother also owned in New York. And the youngest ones, they would fly to parties with some of these wealthy people, especially in Palm Beach, and that's where some of these girls ended up getting sexually abused.
And let's talk about the Pam Bondi of it, because when Jeffrey Epstein was in Florida, he was going back and forth between Florida and New York, conducting these vile businesses, and also a Caribbean island. I believe he had a whole island, Lolita Island they called it. So he's going to all these different places. Eventually he does get